The phrase, the dark night of the soul, has been around for a very long time. It may have originated with St. John of the Cross, a mystic from Spain. It has been around for a very long time, but I'm not sure if it actually does. By describing something, the person asking the question seems to be implying that they are currently experiencing something similar to what is being described here. The black night of the soul is a word that is used to express what one may call a collapse of a perceived meaning in life, an eruption into your existence of a profound sense of meaninglessness. Yes, I would say that I have also experienced this phenomenon, and in certain instances, the internal state is extremely similar to that of depression, possibly a dark night of the soul, which is commonly associated with a condition that is commonly referred to as depression. To put it another way, it is essentially a feeling of meaninglessness or emptiness. At this point, nothing makes any sense. Nothing you do serves any kind of purpose. Additionally, there are instances in which it is initiated by an external event, such as a tragedy that may occur on an external level, rather than occurring within. It could be triggered by the death of a person who is close to you, particularly a death that occurs prematurely. For instance, if your child passes away, or if you had built up your life and given it significance, and if you had given your life purpose. You may say, "This is what my life is about," referring to your activities, your accomplishments, where you are heading, and what you regard to be essential. As a result, the significance that you had assigned to your life for some reason is no longer present. Therefore, as I mentioned earlier, it is possible for it to occur if something occurs that you are no longer able to explain away, such as a catastrophe that appears to render the meaning that your life had previously had meaningless. The entire conceptual framework that you had established for your life, as well as the significance that your mind had assigned to it, should be considered to have crumbled. Because of this, there is a feeling of darkness, as if one were in a dark area. However, many have gone through it, and you will find yourself in that dark spot for a period of time before you escape from that condition. The probability exists that you will emerge victorious from that situation. It is possible to emerge from that into an altered state of awareness in which existence once again has meaning. But this meaning is no longer seen to be a conceptual meaning that can be explained in a straightforward manner. The black night of the soul is the place where individuals most frequently awaken from their collapsed conceptual sense of reality. This is not always the case, but it is quite frequently the place where people awaken from their sleep. They awaken into something more profound, which is no longer dependent on conceptions in your mind. They experience a more profound sense of purpose or oneness with a broader existence that is no longer dependent on explanations or anything mental. This acts as a form of rebirth. Furthermore, the black night of the soul is a form of death in which you take your own life. A person's egocentric concept of self is the thing that perishes during the dark night of the soul. Indeed, death is always a horrible experience, yet nothing substantial has actually passed away there. Rather, it is merely an illusion of a person's identity. They discovered that, out of that, a new self emerged that was a non-conceptual self but a deeper being, the awakened consciousness, and they somehow, looking back, realized that they had to go through that. Now, it is probably the case that some people who have gone through this transformation have been through the dark night of the soul. They have also discovered that they have discovered that. It is true that not everyone is required to go through it, but there are some individuals who are. And in certain spiritual traditions, They even attempt to recreate the experience of the dark night of the soul in order to bring about a spiritual awakening. This is done in order to bring about that awakening. This was most likely a component of the so-called mystery schools that existed in ancient Greece and Egypt. These institutions were designed, and some of them even persisted until Roman times. Mystery schools were characterized by rituals and other practices. Due to the fact that they were kept a secret, we do not know very lot about it. There was not a lot of writing about it. In addition, according to one tradition, you were required to spend a considerable amount of time in utter darkness, sometimes even in a place that resembled a coffin, in complete seclusion and darkness. I would say that this is an attempt on the side of someone who has been through the natural dark night of the soul to replicate the feeling of it in a way that is more artificial, with the intention of genuinely experiencing that complete darkness where things break down. Whether to what extent it works when it's not a natural experience but a created experience, for how many people that worked, and actually did bring about an awakening and a collapse of the mind-made self, I don't know whether it truly worked for many people, but it must have worked to some extent because the tradition went on for a very long time. They speak of comparable things, often defined as the night journey in mythological tradition, or even the descent to the underworld. There are other mythological forms as well, and they speak of similar things in various forms. Every one of them points to the same experience, which is not always a terrible one in the end. Simply being a part of it makes it appear to be negative, yet it is actually a component of a bigger purpose. Not everyone will experience this as a part of the awakening. There is no requirement for it to be, yet it is frequently a component of the awakening process. It is the passing of the previous self that gives birth to the new self. Therefore, if you are aware of this, the more you give into it, the faster you will be able to get through it, regardless of whether it is about to happen or whether you are already in the middle of it. The act of surrendering entails giving up judgment on it. At this very now, you are willing to embrace whatever it is that you are experiencing. But as I mentioned earlier, not everyone is required to go through it. For a great number of individuals, the process of awakening first and foremost begins without that. At times, even after the waking process has begun, it is possible that it may continue occurring, and then you will finally be able to break through. However, that is not a problem. Allow life to take its course as it will. It is not necessary for you to look for that, and it is not necessary for us to recreate it in any artificial fashion. Therefore, you shouldn't just lock yourself in a room for days on end and do nothing. It's highly unlikely that it will work. There is no need for it. In the very first lesson of the Course on Miracles, it is said that nothing I see in this room means anything, and you are supposed to look around the room at whatever it is that you happen to be looking at the moment and remark, "This thing doesn't mean anything." Indeed, that is completely meaningless. No significance can be derived from this table. What does this hand have to do with anything? What is the point of a class that is structured like way? To put it another way, it's a little bit like replicating what might happen during the dark night of the soul, which is the collapse of a meaning that was created by the intellect, a conceptual meaning of life. The conviction that you have a complete understanding of the situation. It is a choice relinquishment of the human mind, made meaning that is projected, and you go voluntarily into saying, "I don't know what this means." So with the Course in Miracles that is covered in the first lesson, it is a deliberate relinquishment. All of this is completely meaningless. At this point, you clean the board. In the midst of the gloomy night of the spirit, it falls apart. Furthermore, in certain religious and spiritual traditions, it is actively urged that you give up your conceptual world. You are then intended to arrive at a place of conceptual, or one might say meaninglessness, or one could say a state of ignorance, in which things lose the meaning that you had given them, which was all conditioned and cultural and so on. This is the destination that you are supposed to reach. After that, you will be able to observe the world without imposing a framework of meaning that you have created in your mind. If this exploration has sparked anything in you, let us keep the fire going strong and keep it continuing strong. Leave a comment and click the like button on the video right away. Not only should you subscribe to my channel in order to watch further motivational videos, but you should also send this post to anyone you believe could benefit from some encouragement in this particular area. It is possible for us to make a greater influence, to provide support for one another, and to strengthen our connection to both ourselves and the people around us if we join together. At this point, are you prepared to find out what happens next? Those who are able to fully embrace the here and now are granted access to the splendor and awe that the cosmos has to offer.